Can one of you boys give me a hand?
This is absolutely terrifying. Based on the head-rolling exorcism that's about to occur, you may not be prepared for the following imagery. You've been warned.
Watch my thumb. Oh, that was close.
You can probably count on a single hand the amount of animated horror shows to get primetime slots over the past few decades. You can probably count on a single finger the amount of animated horror shows that so consistently subvert nearly every expectation of both the genre and its viewer. Courage the Cowardly Dog was that giant middle finger that never did what was expected of it. And it was glorious. Animated shows seem to fall into three usually distinct categories. There's the character-driven animated show, things like Ed, Edd n Eddy. Then there's the premise-based show where an idea, like a talking sponge working as a fry cook, builds the show's appeal. And there's the pure slapstick nature of animation-driven shows like Looney Tunes. But to define a show by its genre is to create expectations that uniquely fit the mold of that show. With Courage, that's downright impossible. Courage holds up spectacularly well, and part of this is because Courage is a combination of its inspiration and absolute insanity, but most importantly, it is a masterclass in subversion.
Boxes! Briefs! Boxes!
This is most immediately obvious in its narrative. A lot of animation, particularly during the Hanna-Barbera era, pandered to its audience by providing familiarity throughout the course of its episodes. You always knew what was inevitably going to happen in every single episode of Scooby-Doo, and it became comfortable to watch for that reason. While the formula of Looney Tunes was a heavy inspiration for Courage creator John R. Dilworth, narratively it was the polar opposite of the approach Dilworth would take with Courage. Part of what makes the show's horror slapstick work is you never know which one you're going to get. Sometimes Courage will stumble upon a monster and it will be, well, as terrifying as expected, but other times, moments like this,
Oh no!
There's no place to run, and no place to hide.
lead to this. That is a horror villain that attempts to kill Courage through a very intense game of handball? Take the season 1 episode Shadow of Courage, for example. In it, the house is tormented by the shadow of a deceased old man. Throughout the course of the episode, the shadow is dead set on killing Eustace and Muriel. And when it's finally time for the showdown in the basement between Courage and the shadow, we get this.
Yes, go on.
But that's not me. That's not me at all. I always wanted to be in showbiz. To be a star, baby. A star.
There was no narrative pattern that Dilworth and Courage followed. It was sheer anarchy. It was never what you thought it would be, and because of that, the show managed to combine terror and comedy in a way that was unique and surprising. But it's how subversive the visual horror got that really made Courage memorable. See, subconsciously, there's always an inherent expectation when watching a show like Courage that the animation style you see in the very first frame of the show is what you'll see throughout its entire runtime. Not here. Dilworth and the animation team behind Courage found horror in not just creature design, but in the shock of animation styles as well. A lot of Courage was inspired directly by the work of Salvador Dali, a painter whose work was rooted firmly in surrealism. Dali's work took what you and I know to be reality and bent it in ways that were both recognizable and bizarre. That surrealism is clear in Courage, but not just in its 2D designs, but more in its approach to animation. The most horrifying thing about King Ramses here is that he looks like he doesn't belong. His CG modeling is terrible, but disturbing, mostly because it's unfamiliar, and fear is a human response to that unfamiliarity. There's a moment in the episode Courage in the Big Stinkin' City that exemplifies this perfectly. Courage has been sent to this condemned building to find a package. He checks every door looking for it, finding something stranger and stranger behind each one until he gets here. A scare made even more impactful by the total confusion of seeing it for the first time juxtaposed against the more traditional 2D animation of the rest of the episode. The unexpected is key in both good horror and comedy, and Courage is one of the few animated shows that gave its animators the freedom to experiment with styles and technologies in ways other shows of that era never dared. There was just one problem for Dilworth and Cartoon Network. It all had to remain grounded in comedy to work at all. What I found strangest about rewatching Courage today was just how well the comedy holds up. Dilworth looked toward the comedic work of silent film star Charlie Chaplin and the aforementioned slapstick of Looney Tunes as inspirations for this work, and it's all here. But I'm not sure that slapstick horror in animation really predates Courage. Instead of pianos falling from the sky, it's giant feet. Instead of Courage falling through the ceiling, it's an entire subway car. The show finds humor in horror constantly. This foot fungus is repulsive, it's grotesque, and it's also...
And the big toe, see? Yeah, see? And what I say goes, see? Got me? Yeah, boss!
An Italian mobster? A mobster that forces Courage to drive to a bank so it and the Little Toes can rob it, but upon arriving, forces Courage to do so, which leads to this play on the cartoon's safe opening trope. Later in the episode, we get Courage's play on the banana peel. Throughout all the scares, Courage remains funny, but importantly, it remains slapstick. The soul of Charlie Chaplin and Looney Tunes, and this is important because this slapstick humor takes the weight off the horror. You know that Muriel, Courage, and Eustace will recover immediately from literally anything that happens to them, so the scares remain scary, but not intense, which could and would turn off younger viewers. Being able to successfully subvert horror expectations using humor is what has made horror comedy such a successful industry in modern film, but that does not mean that Courage did not push boundaries. Maybe the final and most spectacular thing about Courage in its 4-season run is just how willing it was to challenge what people expected out of a children's network animated show on one of the big three during the late 90s. Sure, there was the adult humor, yes, this is Courage being examined by a statue in the series' second episode, but if you talk to people today about the series, you'll hear a lot of the same thing. They never watched Courage as a kid because it was too scary. Watching it today, it's not hard at all to understand that train of thought. What is incredible is that Cartoon Network let this show seemingly do whatever it pleased, and it was, at times, disturbing. This wasn't particularly pleasant. Violin Girl was downright scarring, and this scene from the House of Discontent made me question how exactly I got through this as a kid. Courage never shied away from the fact that it was designed to scare. As a result, it was easier for adults to invest themselves in the show as well. And Courage held that terror until the very end. Its final episode, titled Perfect, is a visualization of all of Courage's insecurities, the final chance to subvert every expectation placed in front of the series. A strange trip through Courage's psyche, narratively disjointed, an animation team knowing it's at the end and throwing every single idea they've ever had into a single, chaotic episode. A CGI fetus, a claymation Courage, a Wizard of Oz parody, and the terror of being flawed, all wrapped into one slapstick package. Nowhere actually exists in New Mexico, in a town called Truth or Consequences. There was a couple that once lived there, isolated in this real-life nowhere that used to report paranormal activity on a regular basis, until one day, the couple vanished, leaving behind nothing but their dog. They were never found. Courage has been rumored to get a reboot for years. I still want to see that happen, because no matter how much animation has changed, there's always room for more of the unexpected. And I am certain that there's a whole lot of people that want to know what's happening in Nowhere today.
Or my name is Jose Santos de Guatemala, and it's not.
That is a wrap on today's episode of Nerdstalgic. If you enjoyed the video, and importantly, if you want to see more stuff like Courage on the channel, press that little thumbs up like button down below. And if you want to see more stuff from me, press subscribe down below. That way you'll never miss an episode. Also, hit the little bell next to the subscribe button. That just makes sure that you guys actually get notified when a video is uploaded to this channel. I know what the bell does is a little confusing, but it's the only real way to be notified when I upload. That's it for me. I'll see you guys in the next video.